For this to be very clear, can we be given those areas of constituencies or counties which are which are appropriate in those areas? We can follow up because it was looking like it was highly restricted areas. Very good.
This such sort of government framework, I think there are three things that we must consider, and what the group could have been considered here. One is what is the focus of this fund of government, and then that is accountability. On the focus, yes, it is clear it is drought, but on our chair, before drought comes, flood comes. Emergencies could be handled at floods could be handled at a contingency fund, but drought could as well. After that, you have months of people going without food. There is a misnomer, very interesting situation there for Kenya. Now, I was in a program from whoever, they have billions of money here. On the coordination, I am wondering provided for the board, but not provided for the steering committee. In my view, the steering committee is even more, not more important, but more primary than the board. The steering committee, which is seen as a subject, is under the regulation, yet the board is in the act. Now, what is actually the relationship? For example, in terms of intervention, the drought authority, we're going to see Ukur. What is different from Tana River? If the drought is going to engage on issues the Minister of Agriculture should be doing, so what is the difference? In terms of the local government approach, it is either this fund waits just to give people food, but doesn't seek borehole. So that they can recommend to government improvement. So are we replacing government? When you say projects, they can seek boreholes, they can have projects to seek borehole. Are we replacing the Ministry of Agriculture?
Very well. Any other member? Honorable Alice Ome, and then Honorable Yense, in that order, and Geshimo.
Okay, Regulation 18. I don't know, maybe I'm not reading. My glasses will be failing me. I'm not seeing the Ministry for Energy to be part of this, because in many cases, sometimes power failure, restoration of heat, or installation, I think that ministries. And in most cases, unless maybe in the current deciding situation, where there is one minister who, for some reason, considering what we are talking about national drought, and the presidency is expected to be responsive one way or the other to the president, and considering the list below, then in the presidency, I think that is the next office to the president. So for me, I find that, but I'm also worried about the capacity of the relationship between this. First, before I get
establishment of the Beshara Fund, we are in the process of now, towards the tail end of merging Youth Enterprise Fund, Women Enterprise Fund, Ways of Fund, to consolidate them with a view of making efficiency and objectivity in terms of funds disbursement, and in removing issues of overhead costs, additional two huge overhead costs, issues of duplication, issues of disbursement. We want to inject efficiency in the whole system, and we are happy with the progress with the Parliament, the Parliamentary Committee so far, because the big advantage is that the funds will grow from 2.5 billion to up to 14 billion from one pool with lean management, reduced overheads, and make it targeted, intervene on the policies, and make it more efficient. So that's basically what we are looking at. Secondly, we are also looking at establishment of the Drought Emergency Fund regulation, which has taken a bit of time. The idea here is that to work on the areas of interventions, resilience, and also recovery is very important, because there are a number of agencies and development partners who want to contribute to this key team with a view of managing issues of drought. Drought is not necessarily an emergency if we plan for well in advance, and that is the direction we are going. We want to look at issues of resilience by making sure that if there are water structures, interventions, predictions, early preparations are inbuilt into these regulations, and the fund is going to appoint the CEO of NDMA as the administrator of the fund. We make it more targeted, increase the scope. And through this, we have come up with establishment of a number of committees at the county level where between the chair and the county commissioner will be co-chairing this very important committee where we look at issue of projects and funds, pooling together and entering into those interventions. Thirdly, we are also here to look at the regulations governing the credit guarantee scheme. The government has part of a recovery program, the COVID recovery program, is to look at the private sector, mainly the SMEs, and enable them have capacity, access to resources, with certain guarantees, level of guarantees from government. We are quite advanced in this. The government, the banks are already on board, 6 banks are already on board, and through this we have been able to multiply, actually triple the amount of resources available by government giving an initial guarantee of 5 billion this financial year, and another additional 5 billion next financial year, holding 10 billion Kenya shilling in reserve. These funds are kept at the Central Bank of Kenya, just to provide, should there be any default and beyond reasonable doubt that this money cannot be recovered by the commercial bank, so then the government will come in, assess it on the basis of this, and enable a cushion at the commercial banks against. This is very important. Is a way of not only recovering but also enabling the SMEs to grow by accessing more funds and enabling and create jobs and opportunities for our people. We've already launched the project. The banks are already started off, and they've already started loaning resources to the beneficiaries. Applicants are already accessing it. The government, we have completed all the necessary regulatory and administrative arrangements through establishment of a committee, experts at Secretariat that will be dealing with it. We've agreed to have a monthly reporting both to the National Treasury, the Central Bank, and also the National Parliament. So it is already rolled out. I think it's clear that the Bishara Fund is quite timely, because we've learned from the various funds, including Women Fund, Youth Enterprise Fund, Wezo Fund, and over time, we've learned our lessons. There are a number of successes, some are doing very well, but there are also a number of bottlenecks, including huge administrative costs that can be trimmed. Not only access, but also the dispersal to the various locations of this country. So it is in light of this realization that we can do it better. We can have one government, those transactions can be done from, under one roof, rather than scattering them all over. If you give an example of maybe here Mombasa or anywhere, we see now officers of Youth Fund, officers of Women Fund, officers of Wezo Fund scattered around, operating differently. The output is low, the overheads are high, and these are things that we want to avoid.